Hey, what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. This time I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of an update of what I've picked up, I'm going to show some stuff from my collection. If the background music hasn't given it away yet, we're going to take a look at my Nirvana collection. And the reason behind that is I made some comments a few months ago that stirred a lot of discussion, both positive and negative. And somebody asked me to show my Nirvana collection at that time, so I'm finally getting around to it forever later. And I want to do some more of these over the next few months. Lately I've been real selective about what I've been buying, and I've been looking for some really quality stuff lately. And I've still got a bunch of metal stuff to show that I haven't shown yet that I've bought over the last few months, and I'll get to that probably in the next video. But I wanted to do this one again. I promised a person I would do it, and it's about time. Let me see. So I've kind of talked about this before. I grew up in the Nirvana era. You know, I was in high school when they blew up. My introduction to Nirvana was a little bit before everybody else's, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I am a person that believes that the band was way overhyped in the media for a number of reasons, and I'll touch on those a little bit too. But that's not to say it wasn't a good band and that I didn't love the band. I really did like them. I still got to kick myself. I had the opportunity to go see them for $10, and I didn't. I don't remember what the reason was for, but it was one of those things that I really kicked myself for afterwards. But that's beside the point. So let's kind of talk about my introduction to Nirvana. I must have been 1990. I'm trying to think when. So Nevermind did not happen the way a lot of people think. People think that Nevermind came out and then it just blew up, and all of a sudden it was this multi-platinum album that changed the way people looked at music, and most of that's not true. Number one, it didn't come out until September. It came out in September of '91. It didn't really blow up until, I want to say, about February or March of 2002. I actually heard it about a week after it came out, and the way I heard it was at a church event. Every year, the Methodist Church, which is what I was a member of in school or when I was younger, had a Young People's Conference. That's what it was called, Young People's Conference, or YPC, and it was in different places every year. I'm sure they had multiple across the country, but the one for the West Coast was, one year it was in Phoenix, one year it was in Los Angeles, one year I went to San Diego, one year I went to Oregon. But the particular year that I'm talking about here was, it was at UNLV in Las Vegas. And what we did is, it was one of the UNLV centers is where all the event took place, and then we all camped out at one of the churches locally, one of the Methodist churches. And it was at the Methodist church that I was sleeping at the first night that somebody introduced me to Nevermind. It was a girl that was from Seattle. We got to talking about music and the type of stuff that I was listening to. And I had already gotten into Alice in Chains at this point, so we were kind of talking about them. And she's like, "Oh, you got to check out this band here. They're friends with Alice in Chains. They play together in the Seattle area." So I was like, "Cool, let me check it out." And the first track that she played for me was, of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I really liked it because of the dynamics of it. But it didn't jump out as this amazing, groundbreaking piece of art. But it was a cool album. So I went back to Phoenix, a few days later. These were like 3-day events. And started looking for the album. You couldn't find it anywhere. Nobody had it. I didn't find it until probably January when they started playing the videos on MTV, and finally got a copy of it. And then maybe a month later, it just kind of blew up. Now, the reason the media, a lot of the reason it's gotten all the attention it's gotten is because the media latched onto it. What the media leaves out is people had already stopped listening to hair metal. So this didn't end hair metal. The shift was already happening. The guys that listened to hair metal went two different directions at that point. A lot of them either went to the more extreme metals, which were just starting to come up, you know. Death metal had made its appearance. Late 90s thrash, power metal was starting to get big in the late 80s. So a lot of the metalheads had already started shifting away from the hair metal. And not just that, a lot of those hair metal bands were breaking up, which had a lot to do with it too. Motley Crue were falling apart at that time. Right after Dr. Feelgood came out, they kind of imploded. Poison was kind of falling apart. All of these big hair bands were either gone or starting to fall apart at this point, and a lot of it just had to do with the drugs and the lifestyle that they were living. So it was already kind of waning out. And then alternative, bands like the Pixies were really bringing up the alternative sound, which I've talked about before. Nirvana has come out straight up and said they stole their sound from the Pixies. Everything that Nevermind is straight up borrowed from the Pixies, which is not a bad thing, but the alternative movement had already started. And not just that, even the Seattle sound was already out there. Super Suckers were already, Mudhoney were already starting to make a name for themselves. You have bands like Pearl Jam that were already out there. Alice in Chains, already out there making a name for themselves. The reason that, like I said, that the media latched on to Nevermind and kind of held up this band was the fact that it was just poppy enough that the general public would grab onto it. It was just punk enough and just heavy enough that the hard rock guys, the heavy metal guys, and the punk guys would get into it. And it was just dark enough lyrically that you could get the goths and all these. And it was just one of those kind of, it came out at the perfect time. It was that kind of perfect sound that the media could all latch onto it. The media wasn't going to latch on to Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains was too heavy and too dark. Now granted, we know that Kurt Cobain was messing with heroin, nothing like Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, So they couldn't latch onto a band like that and really push it on MTV the way they could with Nirvana. And, and I've read a couple of interviews and stuff with different media personalities or pop music writers at the time, and they've talked about this in depth, why they really decided to push that band up as opposed to the other bands that were coming out at that time. But regardless, I could talk about this forever. Let's just kind of jump into my collection. It's not huge. It's really not. I've actually owned multiple copies of Bleach, Nevermind, and Utero on CD. Incesticide I've had on CD. But let's jump into it. So the first one I'm going to show is the Sliver 7-inch. I've had two copies of this. I just recently sold one. This is the 2009 repress that's on the same label that it was originally released on in 1990. And it's the B-side of this is Dive. And the reason I mentioned the label is because there were multiple labels. This is what the original label looked like. There was another label that came out with the, I think 2010 and I think 2012 or 2013, they did additional represses of this. Sub Pop did. So this is the 2009 repress. Then also the 2009 repress of Bleach. You can see the label, kind of a shot out to kind of a replica of the oh my god, the Velvet Underground's label. I can't think of the name of the label, right? Verve, kind of a little homage to the old Verve label. I love this. I did have an earlier pressing of this from, I believe, 92-ish. It doesn't sound near as good as the 2009 remaster here. I mean, they just did a really good job when they remastered this album. Really good job. And Bleach is a funny one. I didn't like Bleach the first time I heard it. And it really had to grow on me. I really like it now, and there's multiple songs on here that I love. But like I said, it really, really had to grow on me. But obviously, About a Girl and Floyd the Barber are probably the biggest songs off of here. I also really like Negative Creep, Mr. Mustache, Sifting, just some really classic songs on here. And this one is, of course, pre-Dave Grohl Nirvana. Next up, this is the 20th anniversary edition of Nevermind. This is the 4 LP set. Let me tell you, if you're going to do a special edition release, this is the way you do it. It's not, they didn't take the one album and break it up into 4 albums, doing it at 45 RPMs, which they could have. Bands like Metallica have been doing that lately, and it just kind of ruins the effect of it, having to get up every 7 or 8 minutes and change the record. What they did is, the whole first LP is the original album. The second LP, you've got B-sides, and then some studio sessions that weren't used, a couple of live tracks. LP3, more studio outtakes. Also on the LP3, some rehearsal material. And then LP4, again, rehearsal and the BBC sessions. There's, I want to say, hang on, let me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 unreleased tracks on here. Now, most of them are tracks you've heard, songs you've heard. It's alternate takes, live versions, demo versions, just some really, really cool stuff. And like I said, this is the way that you do a special or a limited pressing. Again, I've heard, I have a good buddy of mine has an original pressing of Nirvana. They're worth a lot of money, I think this sounds better. They did a really good job remastering it here. I've also heard the Mo-Fi. I would like to get a copy of the Mo-Fi, but I think this sounds just as good. This pressing sounds just as good as the Mo-Fi, in my opinion. But even the Mo-Fi goes for $150, $200. So, next up, In Utero, 2013 mix. I wish they would have done more with this. These were both 20th anniversary releases. I wish they would have done a little bit more with this one. They basically took this, took it from 1 album to 2 albums, cut it at 45 RPMs, direct metal mastering. It sounds killer. And even though, like I said, they didn't do the Metallica route where it's 1 or 2 songs on each side. They could have put this at 45 and broke it down to 4 albums, but they did a good job. It sounds killer. Open this up. But I wish they would have put some extra material on it as opposed to just the actual. So there's the insert there. Now, I still like this. I do like In Utero. But I think that they could have... I don't think it was near as good as Bleach or Nevermind. I've also got Unplugged in New York. Now, while I really like this one, I actually like the next live album that came out, which was from the Muddy Banks of the Wishka, which came out a year or 2 after this did. A lot of people consider this to be one of the best live albums ever. I think that's a stretch. I don't even think it's the best Unplugged. I would take Alice in Chains Unplugged over this any day of the week. But it's still a good Unplugged set. At this point, Pat Smear had also joined the band and was playing with them live. But again, great live set, but I do prefer from the Muddy Banks of the Wishka. I don't have that one on vinyl. That goes for crazy money. Hopefully I'll run across it someday for a good price. And then the last piece of Nirvana that I have is their Nirvana box set with the lights out. This is a very cool box set. We're actually listening to CD 3. Here, let me...
Are we rolling?
show this to you. The first 2 albums. The 3rd CD, and then the DVD. And it's also got a really nice book that's got just some great pictures of the band. Kind of talks about each song. Got different comments from various people who knew the band or who were working with the band. And basically what this box set is this is filled with outtakes, B-sides, demos. If you guys have heard the Fecal Matter bootleg, a lot of that stuff is on here. But you've got, live from '87, rehearsal recordings from '88, the demo from '88. Let's see, more demos from '89. Solo and acoustic jams from '90 and '91, outtakes, B-sides, rehearsal recordings, 4-track home recordings, and then some film outtakes as well. So, really good collection. It's relatively cheap. I paid $10 for this at Goodwill, but I've seen it for 15 or 20 bucks at different CD stores used. So you can get it for relatively cheap. It's not something you're going to listen to all the time like you will with their albums, but it is a really good look at the band as they grew from '87 through Cobain's death. So still definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of Nirvana. Now again, there's other stuff I'm looking for. I would like to have a copy of what's the name of it? Incesticide on vinyl. And then eventually I'll get the best of the box, which is all their 45. You can still find that for relatively cheap. But, there's not a whole lot more out there. I've seen 3 or 4 recent bootlegs pop up. There is the European bootleg of Fecal Matter, which I may get, because I run across that pretty regularly for a relatively good price. But a lot of the bootlegs that have been popping up lately have been popping up for $35, $40. And a lot of the stuff that's on those bootlegs you can find on either With the Lights Out or on the anniversary edition of Nevermind. So I think spending $35 on that stuff's a waste of money. But there are some cool live recordings that I would like to have on vinyl. So you may see me show those in the future. But that's it, guys. I hope you dug it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's get the discussion going. Take care, VC.